The first thing that woke Dr. Kabir Roy was not a sound, but heat. It came at 2041 in the morning, sudden and intimate, as though someone had opened an oven beside his face. He opened his eyes to darkness and saw nothing unusual beyond the faint green numerals of the bedside clock and the pale rectangle of snowlight leaking through the curtains. Priya was asleep beside him, turned toward the wall, one hand tucked beneath her cheek. The bedroom was supposed to be 48 degrees Fahrenheit. Kabir knew because he had set the thermostat himself before going upstairs, and because the small digital monitor on his nightstand displayed 47.8. Yet sweat had gathered along his spine. He lay still for several seconds listening. The house was silent in the particular way. Old houses became silent during deep winter when snow absorbed distant traffic and frozen trees stopped moving. No furnace, no pipes knocking, no settling timber, nothing. Then the smell arrived. Camphor. Not perfume, not incense, not something vaguely medicinal that his tired brain might have classified as camphor, because he had been thinking about the object downstairs. It was unmistakable, the sharp, crystalline, almost sweet smell of burning camphor. The smell of temple corridors in India, of brass plates and white smoke curling toward blackened ceilings. Kabir sat upright. The heat vanished. His skin prickled as the bedroom returned to its proper temperature with such abruptness that he felt colder than before. Priya. She did not move. Priya. Her eyelids fluttered. What? Do you smell that? She inhaled once, slowly, and immediately sat up. Camphor. Kabir looked at the clock again. 2:41. Could be electrical, he said. What? A plastic component overheating. Insulation. Something downstairs. Priya stared at him. Kabir, the smoke detector went. Smoke detectors don't detect every thermal event. He was already out of bed. Stay here. Absolutely not. Then stay behind me. She almost laughed, but the expression died before it formed. They dressed quickly. Kabir took his phone, a flashlight, and the heavy steel maglite he kept beside the bedroom door. Priya carried the small brass flashlight she used in her restoration workshop. Neither mentioned the fact that the house was locked. Neither mentioned the fact that they had installed new deadbolts after moving into the estate 6 weeks earlier. The property sat at the end of a private road in the Hudson Valley, 9 miles from the nearest village. A massive 19th century stone structure with 3 floors and unfinished cellar, a detached carriage house, and more woodland than either of them had initially understood from the listing photographs. In summer, it had looked romantic. In January, it looked abandoned. Snow lay 6 feet deep in places along the north boundary. The river beyond the trees had frozen at its edges, leaving black channels of moving water beneath plates of white ice. The house itself was built from dark local stone that absorbed winter light and seemed almost blue after sunset. They had bought it because Priya had fallen in love with the restoration possibilities. Kabir had agreed because the commute to his laboratory in New York was manageable twice a week, and because, after years of living in apartments, he had begun to want a place where silence was something he could own. 6 weeks earlier, the house had been ordinary. 5 weeks earlier, Priya had bought the idol. They descended the stairs without speaking. The temperature changed on the landing. It was warmer there. Kabir noticed it immediately because the skin of his forearms tightened beneath his shirt. The smell became stronger as they approached the library. He raised the maglite and swept it across the hall. Nothing. Every door was closed. The security panel near the entrance showed all exterior sensors green. The front door remained dead bolted. The kitchen door was locked. The mudroom door was locked. The windows were latched. Kabir checked them anyway. He had learned through years of scientific work that assumptions were merely conclusions people became emotionally attached to before collecting sufficient data. The library was empty. The fireplace was cold. The antique Persian rug was undisturbed. Bookshelves lined 3 walls. On the 4th stood a walnut cabinet containing objects Priya had purchased for restoration projects. Except the cabinet was not closed. Its right-hand door stood open by approximately 3 inches. Kabir stared at it. Did you leave that open? Priya whispered. No, I did. She frowned. Actually, I think I did earlier. Kabir approached. Inside the cabinet were several boxes of ceramics, old silver, a collection of European religious medals, and a wooden crate padded with linen. The crate contained the idol. Priya had purchased it at an estate auction in Manhattan 23 days earlier. The auction catalog had described it as an 18th century devotional sculpture, black stone Kali figure, provenance uncertain, northeastern Indian origin. The estimate had been absurdly low. Priya had bought it for restoration study because the stonework was unusually fine and because she had been intrigued by the damaged surface. When it arrived, Kabir had disliked it immediately. He had not believed it was supernatural. He had disliked it because the face was wrong. The figure was only 14 inches tall, carved from a dense black stone with a chipped crown and 4 arms. One hand held a curved blade, another held something resembling a severed head. The other 2 had been damaged beyond recognition. Its tongue projected from the mouth, but the sculptor had made the tongue slightly asymmetrical, so the face seemed to lean toward whoever stood before it. Priya had cleaned a small section of the base and discovered traces of red pigment beneath layers of soot. She had intended to document the pigment before restoration. Instead, 3 days after the idol arrived, she had stopped working on it. I don't like it, she had said. Kabir had teased her. The neuroscientist married an antique restorer, and somehow the statue is what scares you? She had answered. I'm not scared of it. I just don't want it in the bedroom. They had placed it in the library cabinet. It had remained there ever since. Now Kabir pulled open the cabinet. The crate was still there. The linen was still folded around the idol. He exhaled. See, he said. Nothing. Priya stepped closer. Then why is it warm? Kabir touched the stone. He jerked his hand back. It was hot. Not warm from room temperature. Hot like a stone left beside a fire. He stared at his fingers. That's impossible. You felt it. I know what I felt. He touched it again, this time deliberately. The stone was cold, so cold that pain shot through his fingertips. He withdrew his hand. Thermal illusion. Priya looked at him. A thermal illusion. Rapid local convection. Metal fittings. Rapid local convection. Metal fittings. Static. I don't know. You just said it was hot. For half a second. She did not answer. Kabir looked at the idol. A small dark crescent marked the stone beneath its left foot. It had not been there the previous evening. He crouched. What's this? Priya leaned down. Ash. He rubbed it between his fingers. It was fine and gray, almost powderless with a faint oily texture. He brought his fingers near his nose. Camphor. Underneath it, something bitter and organic. Mustard. He looked at the floor. There were more grains scattered across the wood. Yellow mustard seeds. They formed a curved line from the cabinet toward the library door. Not random, a line. Did you spill something? He asked. Priya shook her head. No. Kabir followed the line with his flashlight. The seed stopped at the threshold. Beyond the threshold, another cluster began. The pattern continued into the hall. Don't step on them. Why? Because I don't know what they are. They're mustard seeds. Then we don't know why they're here. He crouched again and photographed them. The camera flash illuminated the hall. For one instant, in the reflected glass of the cabinet, Kabir thought he saw someone standing behind him. He turned so quickly that the mag light struck the door frame. Nothing. Priya was looking at him. What? Nothing. Kabir. I thought I saw movement. Where? Reflection. He walked to the cabinet glass and inspected it. Their reflections were visible. The hall behind them was empty. He raised his hand. His reflection raised its hand. His reflection raised its hand. He stepped sideways. The reflection followed. Probably my own movement, he said. You're shaking. I'm cold. You were sweating 5 minutes ago. Kabir ignored her. He took a paper evidence envelope from a drawer in the library. Priya kept them for restoration work and collected several mustard seeds and a pinch of ash. We're going upstairs. And the idol? We don't touch it. What if something is wrong with it? Then we'll test it tomorrow. Kabir. He looked at her. Tomorrow. They returned upstairs. At 2056, the temperature stabilized. At 302, the smell disappeared. At 37, the house returned to normal. Neither slept. By breakfast, Kabir had developed a theory. Not a good one, but a plausible one. The auction house had failed to disclose prior storage conditions. The idol could have retained camphor or resin compounds in microscopic pores. Someone at the estate sale or during shipping might have handled it with ritual substances. The mustard seeds could have been carried into the house accidentally, perhaps from Priya's restoration materials. The apparent heat could have been subjective. The human brain was extremely susceptible to expectation, especially in darkness. He explained all of this while making coffee. Priya listened without arguing. Then she opened the evidence envelope. Kabir. He looked up. What? She held one of the mustard seeds between tweezers. These aren't mustard seeds. They look like mustard seeds. They're too large. She placed it beneath her jeweler's loupe. And look at the surface. He came around the island. What am I looking at? Cuts. Natural grooves. No, incisions. She rotated the seed. Tiny marks crossed its surface in a repeating pattern. Kabir stared. Could be damage. All of them. She opened the envelope. There are 17. He examined them under magnification. The marks resembled shallow lines intersecting at precise angles. Contamination from machinery, he said. Possibly. Priya lowered the loupe. You don't believe that? I believe in probability. And what's the probability that someone deliberately carved 17 mustard seeds and scattered them beneath our locked doors? I don't know. Exactly. Kabir returned to his coffee. We'll install cameras. Already have cameras. More cameras. They installed 6 additional units that afternoon. 2 thermal sensors, 3 contact sensors on the basement doors, a pressure mat beneath the library threshold. Kabir also ordered a portable particulate monitor, an infrared thermometer, and a compact air quality sensor from the laboratory supplier. He treated the house like an experimental environment. Priya helped because, whatever her private fears, she trusted his method. They documented baseline temperature, humidity, airflow, electrical fluctuations, electromagnetic interference, and sound levels. Nothing unusual occurred during the first night, nor the second. On the third night at 3:15 a.m., one of the hallway cameras stopped recording for 11 seconds. Kabir discovered this the next morning. The system had not lost power. The timestamp continued. The camera simply recorded blackness. He rewound it frame by frame. At 3:14:59, the hall was empty. At 3:15:15, black. At 3:15,000, well then, the hall returned. Nothing had moved. He checked the network logs. No interruption. He checked the network logs. No interruption. He checked the camera physically. It functioned. He replaced it anyway. The following night, the same thing happened. 3:15. 11 seconds. Black. On the 5th night, the kitchen camera went dark at 3:15. The 6th night, the library camera. The 7th, the bedroom camera. 11 seconds each time. Kabir began to suspect sabotage. He checked the wiring. He added an independent battery system. He isolated the cameras from the home network and recorded locally. The next night, nothing happened. He almost smiled when he woke at 6:30. Solved, he said. Priya was already dressed. What? Interference. You don't know that. The cameras stayed online because I isolated them. So it was network related. She looked at him for several seconds. Kabir, the cameras aren't the problem. Then what is? She pointed toward the bedroom door. 3 mustard seeds lay on the floor outside it. He stopped smiling. The door had been locked from the inside. He knew because he had locked it himself. He looked at the seeds, then at Priya. "Don't touch them." "I wasn't planning to." He photographed them. Then he photographed the lock. No scratches, no tampering. The pressure mat beneath the door showed no activation. There was no physical route by which the seeds could have entered. He checked the room. Nothing. Then he saw the ash. A faint gray line ran beneath the bed. Kabir knelt. "Don't." Priya's voice was quiet. He ignored her. He lifted the bedspread. Nothing beneath the bed except dust and storage boxes. The ash line continued toward the wall. He traced it with his flashlight. It disappeared beneath the baseboard. "There's a cavity," he said. "Probably old construction. We should leave." He looked at her. "Leave the house." "Leave the house?" "Yes." "Because of mustard seeds?" "Because something is happening that we can't explain." "That's not sufficient." "For you." Kabir stood. "No, for anyone." They spent the next 2 days researching the idol. Priya contacted the auction house. The response was brief. The piece had been acquired from a private collection in Connecticut. The previous owner had died. The family had requested anonymity. There was no provenance beyond that. Priya contacted 2 South Asian art specialists. One refused to authenticate the object from photographs. Another said it was probably not from Kamakya at all. Kabir found that reassuring. Kamakya, he explained to Priya, was associated with one of the major Shakti pilgrimage traditions in Assam, a place layered with centuries of ritual history. People attach all kinds of supernatural claims to places like that, he said. History becomes mythology. Mythology becomes marketing. Priya was reading an old scanned catalog. Then why does this catalog call it Kamakya stone? Kabir looked over her shoulder. "Where did you get that?" "Archive." She pointed to a handwritten note beneath an image of a different Kali sculpture. The phrase appeared in faded ink. "Black stone from the Kamakya tradition. Ritual ash concealed within base." Kabir stared. "Could be collector's nonsense. Could be. We need a materials analysis." "I already arranged one." The following morning they drove to a laboratory in Albany. The technician scanned a tiny fragment from the damaged base under magnification and performed non-destructive spectroscopy. The stone itself appeared to be a dense volcanic material, consistent with several possible sources. The pigment contained iron oxide and organic residue. The ash was more complicated. The technician frowned at the result. "It's not ordinary fireplace ash." Kabir leaned forward. "What is it?" "Charred organic material. Mixed compounds. Plant matter. Maybe resin. Human?" The technician paused. "Plant matter. Maybe resin. Human." The technician paused. "I can't tell from this test." Kabir felt a strange pressure behind his eyes. "Can you carbon date it?" "Not from this quantity without destroying it." "Then don't." They left with the sample. On the drive home, Priya said, "You heard him." "I heard him say it's organic residue." "You heard him say it might be ritual material." "He didn't say that." "He didn't have to." Kabir stared through the windshield at the snow-covered road. "Priya, ritual does not equal supernatural." "I know. People have burned things in ceremonies for thousands of years." "I know. And if someone deliberately planted this, who?" He had no answer. That night they moved the idol. Not outside. Kabir refused to leave an undocumented artifact in freezing conditions. Instead, they placed it inside a sealed polyethylene container and moved it into the basement laboratory space. They recorded its position, temperature, weight, and condition. Kabir weighed it twice, 14.7 kilograms. They sealed the container. They photographed the seal. At 10:17 p.m., they went upstairs. At 10:43, the basement temperature sensor registered a rise of 11 degrees. Kabir received the alert on his phone. He went downstairs alone. The container was still sealed. The idol was still inside. The temperature around it was 84 degrees Fahrenheit. He opened the outer container. The stone was cold. The air around it was hot. His breath did not fog. He stared at the sensor, then at the idol. "This is convection," he whispered. "There is a heat source." He scanned the floor. Nothing. He checked the walls. Nothing. He lifted the container. The concrete beneath it was warm. He moved it 6 inches. The warm patch remained. He moved it another 6 inches. The warm patch followed. Kabir froze. He crouched and placed his palm against the concrete. Warm. He stood. The idol's face appeared darker than before. He told himself that was impossible. Stone did not change color. Light changed. Moisture changed. Human perception changed. But the eyes seemed deeper. He took a photograph. The flash reflected off the polished black surface. For an instant, the face appeared to smile. He lowered the phone. He did not look again. He returned upstairs and told Priya they were leaving in the morning. "Good," she said. "We'll put it in storage." "No." "What? We're not moving it again." "Why?" "Because I don't know what we're dealing with." Priya stared at him. "That's the first sensible thing you've said all week." He did not sleep. At 30:15, the basement camera recorded 11 seconds of darkness. But the camera was independent. The blackout was impossible. Kabir watched the footage at 700 a.m. The screen showed the sealed container sitting on the concrete floor. 3D14 1459. 3D15 1459. 315 black. 3015 11. The image returned. The container remained. But there was something on the floor beside it. Kabir enlarged the frame. It looked like a footprint. Bare. Dark. Wet. He checked the next frames. The footprint disappeared. He watched again. At 3:15:11, the footprint was gone. He checked the temperature log. At exactly 3015, the sensor dropped from 84 to 38 degrees, then returned to 84 at 3015:11. 11 seconds of impossible cold. He sat back. Priya entered the room carrying tea. "What happened?" He turned the monitor toward her. She watched. "That's a footprint. Could be a stain. It's shaped like a foot." "Yes." "Barefoot." "Yes." "Barefoot." "Yes." "Barefoot." "Yes." He shut the monitor. "We're leaving." They began packing. By noon, the weather had deteriorated. A storm warning covered the Hudson Valley. Roads were closing north of them. Kabir called the property manager and arranged for a locksmith to meet them after the storm. They planned to drive south and stay at a hotel. The plan lasted until 2008 p.m., when the front door would not open. The deadbolt turned. The handle moved. The door remained closed. Kabir pushed harder. Nothing. He examined the hinges. They were intact. He checked the frame. No obstruction. Priya tried. Nothing. They opened a window. The window lifted 3 inches and stopped against something invisible. The kitchen door behaved the same way. The mudroom door would not open. The garage door would not activate. The phone signal disappeared. Their internet connection died. The landline produced no dial tone. Kabir remained calm. "Structural issue," he said. "Pressure differential." Priya stared at him. "All doors?" "Possibly." He checked the basement. The exterior stairwell door was sealed. The emergency window in the basement was frozen shut from the outside, despite being above ground level. They were not trapped by magic, he told himself. They were trapped by ice, warped frames, electrical failure, and a blizzard. Those things happened. Houses failed. Systems failed. Human beings mistook coincidence for intention. That was the principle he had built his life upon. Then he found the footprints. They began at the basement stairs. Bare feet, wet, blackened around the edges. One after another, they crossed the stone floor, climbed the stairs, passed through the hall, and stopped outside the bedroom. There were no footprints going in the opposite direction. Kabir crouched over them. "Someone is inside." Priya's face had gone pale. How? Hidden access. Crawl space. Old servant passage. He stood. We searched systematically. They searched the entire house. Every room. Every closet. Every omp. Every closet. Every attic space. Every attic space. Every crawl space accessible without demolition. Nothing. No person. No intruder. No tunnel. No broken window. No hidden door. Kabir checked every security sensor. No external entry. No motion alerts. Yet the footprints remained. He took samples of the black residue. The material smelt faintly of burnt wood and camphor. At 6:22 p.m., the storm knocked out the power. The emergency generator started. At 6:31, the generator stopped. Kabir checked the fuel. Full. The engine had simply ceased. He tried restarting it. Nothing. The house became dark. They lit candles. Priya sat beside him in the library. The idol still sealed in the basement. Neither spoke for several minutes. Snow tapped against the windows. Then something tapped from inside the wall. 3 times. Kabir looked up. Tap, tap, tap. Priya whispered, "That's not the pipes." "No." Tap, 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 tap. The sound moved from the wall behind the library shelves to the wall beside the fireplace. Kabir stood. "Stay here. I'm coming. Priya, I'm coming." They moved the bookshelf. Behind it was stone. No cavity. The tapping came again, this time from the floor. Kabir knelt. Below us. He placed his palm against the rug. The wood beneath was vibrating faintly. Then the smell of camphor filled the room. Priya began to cry without making a sound. Kabir pulled the rug aside. A thin line of gray ash had appeared across the floorboards. It formed a circle, perfectly measured. Inside the circle were 7 mustard seeds, not scattered, arranged like points on a geometric figure. Kabir took his phone. The battery showed 42%. The screen flickered. For a moment, a notification appeared that he did not recognize. He touched it. The screen displayed a live video feed from the bedroom camera. He had not opened the camera application. The image showed their bedroom. The bed was empty. The camera angle was wrong. It was positioned near the ceiling, looking downward. Kabir stared. "That's not one of our cameras." Priya moved closer. On the screen, the bedroom door opened. Slowly, something entered. A person. Tall, thin, completely black. Not wearing black clothing. Covered in soot. It moved without sound. Another figure entered behind it. Then another. Then another. Then another. 4 figures stood around the bed. Kabir's mouth went dry. "When was this recorded?" Priya asked. "It's live." "No. Look at the timestamp. 3:15 a. Mo. Look at the timestamp. 3:15 a mun." The clock on the bedside table showed 3:15, but it was 6:47 p.m. in the real house. Kabir checked his phone. 6:47. He looked back at the screen. One of the soot-covered figures turned its head toward the camera. Kabir stopped breathing. Its face was indistinct, but its posture was unmistakably human. It raised one arm. Slowly, it pointed toward the camera. Then, the image cut to black. The phone vibrated. A new notification appeared. "Motion detect. Master broom." Kabir stared at the message. He did not move. Priya whispered, "We're downstairs." He nodded. "Yes." Another notification. "Motion to TT team. Master bedroom." Another. "Motion to TT team. Master bedroom." Another. "Motion to TT. Master bedroom." Then another. "Motion to TT. Master bedroom." The phone began vibrating continuously. Kabir opened the camera application. Every camera showed the same room. Their bedroom. 4 soot-covered figures stood around the bed. They were not moving. They were simply waiting. Then Kabir noticed something that made his stomach contract. The figures were not standing around an empty bed anymore. Someone was lying beneath the blankets. He zoomed in. A man, sleeping on his back. Face turned toward the wall. Kabir recognized the shirt. He was wearing it that morning. "That's me," he whispered. Priya covered her mouth. Kabir. On the screen, the sleeping man's chest rose and fell. Once, twice, 3 times. Kabir's phone clock changed from 6:48 to 3:15. Every clock in the house began chiming at once. The soot-covered figures turned toward the sleeping man. One reached down and placed a hand over his mouth. Kabir shouted and dropped the phone. The screen cracked against the floor. The lights suddenly came on. The generator roared to life. The doors unlocked simultaneously. The smell disappeared. The library returned to normal. For several seconds, there was only the sound of the generator and their breathing. Kabir picked up the phone. The screen was blank. No camera application. No notifications. No footage. Nothing. He looked at Priya. "We're leaving now." They ran upstairs. The bedroom was empty. The bed was undisturbed. The sheets were cold. Kabir examined the room from floor to ceiling. Nothing. Then Priya pointed toward the pillow. A small patch of gray ash lay on it. Beneath the ash was a single mustard seed. Kabir touched neither. He called emergency services. The call connected. He gave their location. The dispatcher told him the roads were blocked and deputies would reach them when conditions allowed. Kabir asked how long. Possibly several hours. He thanked her. He did not mention the idol. He did not mention soot-covered figures. He did not mention the impossible camera. He gave the facts that could be verified. Power failure, doors malfunctioning, severe weather, possible trespass concern. They locked themselves in the upstairs bedroom with a heavy dresser against the door. Kabir placed cameras facing the hallway. He connected a laptop to the remaining local network. Priya sat on the bed, staring at the floor. "What did you see?" she asked. "A recording." "No. A recording." "You know it wasn't." Kabir said nothing. "Kabir, what did you see?" "I saw something I can't explain." "Say it. Say it for what did you see?" "I saw something I can't explain." "Say it." He looked at her. 4 people, covered in soot. "Yes. Around our bed." "Yes. Around our bed." "Yes. And one was you." He swallowed. "Yes." Priya closed her eyes. "Do you think the idol is causing this?" Kabir hesitated. "I think something about the idol is connected to it." "That's not the same thing." "No." "What do we do?" He looked toward the bedroom door. "We stay rational. Even now. Especially now." At 7:12 p.m., someone knocked on the front door. 3 slow knocks. Kabir and Priya froze. Another 3. Kabir checked the exterior camera. Snow blew across the driveway. No vehicle. No person. The camera showed the front door from above. Empty. 3 more knocks. Kabir whispered, "Nobody opens anything." The knocking stopped. Then came a sound from downstairs. A woman's voice. Kabir, Priya's face drained of color. It was her voice. Perfectly. "Kabir, open the door." Priya grabbed his wrist. "That's not me." "I know." The voice came again from the hallway outside the bedroom. "Kabir?" He stared at the door. The voice was now less than 10 feet away. "Open the door." He backed away. "It knows our voices," Priya whispered. "No," Kabir said. "Someone is using a recording. There are no speakers. Hidden device." "Then where is it?" The voice changed. Kabir's voice now. "Priya, open the door." She began shaking. Kabir's voice now. "Priya, open the door." She began shaking. "That's you. I know." "Kabir, don't answer." "I'm not going to." The voice outside became angry. "Priya, silence." Then Kabir heard himself whisper from the other side of the door, "She's not there." He looked at Priya. She was beside him. The voice continued, "She's downstairs." Kabir's heartbeat hammered in his ears. Then the handle moved, slowly, once, twice. The dresser held. The handle stopped. A long silence followed. Kabir checked the camera feed. The hallway was empty. He switched to thermal. Nothing. No human heat. He almost laughed from relief. "It's a sound system," he whispered. "Some kind of acoustic." The thermal image changed. A cold shape appeared on the hallway floor. Human-shaped. Not warm. Not cold enough to be ice. It was simply absent from the thermal spectrum. A human silhouette defined by the temperature of everything around it. Kabir stared. The shape moved toward the door. The camera did not show it. The thermal sensor did. It stopped directly outside. Kabir's phone vibrated. One message appeared. 3:15. He looked at the clock. 7:19. The number changed. 7:19. The number changed. 7021. The message remained. 3:15. Suddenly, the bedroom became unbearably hot. Camphor flooded the air. Priya screamed. The ash on the pillow lifted into the air without wind. It swirled upward in a thin gray column. Kabir watched, unable to move. The ash formed a shape above the bed. A hand, then an arm, then the outline of a human face. The face was incomplete, but Kabir recognized the eyes. Not because they belonged to anyone he knew, because they belonged to him. The ash face opened its mouth. No sound emerged. Then the bedroom door clicked. The dresser shifted 1 inch toward them. Kabir grabbed Priya. Back. The dresser shifted again. The door began opening. 1 inch. 2. 3. The thermal sensor showed the impossible silhouette standing beyond it. Kabir looked at the digital clock. 7:22. The numbers flickered. 7:23. 7:23. 7:23. 7:23. Bethfouth. 24. Then, without transition, 3:15. Every device in the room displayed 3:15. The laptop, the phone, the thermostat, the camera recorder, even Priya's wristwatch. Kabir stared at the bedroom door as it opened another inch. Through the gap, he could see darkness. Then 2 bare feet appeared beneath the door. Wet, blackened. One stepped into the bedroom, then another. The figure slowly emerged from behind the door, its body covered in gray soot, its skin cracked and dark as if it had been dragged from a cremation fire. Kabir wanted to move, but his body had stopped obeying him. The figure raised its head. There was no face. Only a smooth black surface where the features should have been. Yet Kabir knew, with a certainty more frightening than recognition, that it was looking directly at him. Priya whispered his name. The figure lifted one hand. In its palm was something small and yellow. A mustard seed. It held the seed between finger and thumb, then opened its other hand. Inside was a tiny black stone carving of Kali. The same idol downstairs. The same chipped crown. The same asymmetrical tongue. Kabir's mind rejected the image violently. The idol was 14 inches tall. It was sealed in the basement. This one was no more than 2 inches. The figure placed the tiny idol on the floor. The room temperature dropped. The figure disappeared. Not faded. Not moved. It was simply no longer there. The bedroom door slammed shut. Kabir stumbled backward. Priya caught him. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then they heard footsteps downstairs. One pair, slow, bare, wet, crossing the library. Kabir looked at the camera feed. The hallway was empty. The footsteps climbed the stairs. One step, pause, another, pause, another. They reached the landing, stopped, then began walking toward the bedroom. Kabir took the mag light. Priya held the brass flashlight. "If someone comes through that door," he whispered, "we run." "Where?" "Attic. Then roof. In a blizzard." "Roof in a blizzard? Better than staying here." The footsteps stopped outside. Silence. Kabir stared at the door. The handle turned. He raised the mag light like a weapon. The door opened. No one stood there. The hallway was empty. Then the camera on the laptop showed 4 figures standing around their bed. Kabir turned toward the bed. It was empty. He looked back at the screen. The 4 figures were closer. They were no longer around the bed. They were around him. On the screen, one of them leaned toward the camera. The soot-covered face came into focus. Kabir recognized it. It was his own face, older by perhaps 40 years. The skin charred, the eyes hollow, the mouth stretched open as if screaming without sound. The figure raised one finger and pointed downward. Kabir slowly looked at the floor. The ash circle had appeared again. This time it was beneath his feet. 7 mustard seeds surrounded him. Priya stood outside the circle. "Kabir," she whispered, "don't move. I wasn't planning to. Look at the door." He did. A second circle had appeared in the hallway, then a third on the stairs, then a fourth in the library. They formed a path through the house, a path leading downward, toward the basement. Kabir understood suddenly why the patterns had appeared beneath locked doors. They had never been entering the rooms. They had been marking them. Each circle was a boundary. Each boundary was another step in something being completed. "The ritual," Priya whispered. Kabir shook his head. "No." "Kabir, we don't know that. Then what do we call it?" He had no answer. A deep sound came from beneath the floor. Not a knock, not a voice. Something like a breath drawn through a throat too large for the human body. The entire house seemed to inhale. Windows rattled. The floorboards flexed. The basement door opened by itself. From below came the smell of burning camphor and something much worse. Something organic and sweet and rotten. Priya backed away. Kabir stared at the darkness. Then the basement lights turned on, one by one. The first bulb, the second, the third. At the bottom of the stairs, the sealed container holding the idol was visible. The lid was open. The seal lay beside it, intact. The idol sat upright inside, but it was no longer 14 inches tall. It was much larger, nearly 3 feet. Kabir could see its black stone arms, its damaged crown, its red tongue. Around its base lay a perfect circle of gray ash. In the center of that circle was a human footprint. Then another. Then another. The footprints continued up the stairs. Toward them. Kabir felt Priya's fingers tighten around his wrist. Neither of them spoke. From the basement came a voice. Kabir's voice. Calm, familiar, almost amused. "You were right." Kabir stopped breathing. The voice continued. "There's always an explanation." Then something moved in the darkness behind the idol. A shape rose slowly, unfolding from the floor, as if it had been lying there for centuries. Kabir raised the mag light. The beam caught a soot-blackened face. 4 figures stood behind the idol. They were the same 4 from the camera. They were standing shoulder to shoulder now, and between them was a 5th figure. Priya gasped. The 5th figure wore Kabir's clothes, his shirt, his jeans, his wedding ring. It lifted its head. Its face was Kabir's face. It looked directly at him and smiled. Then it spoke in Priya's voice. "You should never have brought her here." Kabir looked at his wife. She was beside him. Her hand was still in his, but her fingers had suddenly gone cold. Priya stared at the figure below. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Kabir," she whispered. "I didn't bring it here." He turned toward her. What? Her expression changed. Something behind her eyes seemed to collapse inward. She looked terrified. I didn't buy the idol. Kabir's stomach dropped. What are you talking about? I didn't buy it. She looked toward the basement. I was sent it. The figure below smiled wider. The house groaned around them. Kabir stared at his wife, unable to understand. By whom? Priya's lips trembled. My father. Kabir felt the floor shift beneath his feet. Priya had told him her father died when she was 12. She had told him there had been no contact, no estate, no surviving relatives involved in the auction. He had believed her because grief was not something he interrogated. Priya, he said slowly, your father has been dead for 27 years. She nodded. I know. The figure below raised its hand. In its palm was the same tiny black idol. Then who sent it? Kabir asked. Priya looked at him. Her eyes were filled with an old terror he had never seen before. He did. The basement lights went out. All of them. Darkness swallowed the staircase. Then directly beside Kabir's ear, a voice whispered the exact words he had heard 27 years earlier. Words no one in America could possibly have known. Words his mother had spoken to him in Bengali when he was a child and feverish in Kolkata. A sentence he had never told Priya, never written down, never recorded. Don't look behind you. Kabir's entire body went rigid. Priya whispered, Kabir? He did not answer. Something breathed against the back of his neck. The bedroom door behind them slowly closed, and from the darkness below, the idol's stone tongue scraped once against its teeth. The sound of stone scraping against stone stopped, and for one impossible second, Kabir stood absolutely still, every muscle locked by the command he had heard in his mother's voice, the old Bengali sentence that had lived for decades in the sealed chamber of his childhood memory. Don't look behind you. He could feel the breath at the back of his neck warm and damp despite the freezing house, and he could feel Priya's fingers still wrapped around his wrist. Except there was something wrong with the pressure, something subtly different about the way she was holding him, because Priya's hand trembled when she was frightened, and this hand was perfectly steady. Kabir swallowed, refusing to turn, refusing even to blink, and said very quietly, Priya? I'm here, she whispered. The voice sounded exactly like her. Don't move. I'm not. Your hand. What about it? Kabir stared into the darkness below. Move your hand away from my wrist. There was a pause. Why? Because I can feel you behind me. Another pause, longer this time. Then the fingers around his wrist tightened. Kabir's heart lurched. Priya was standing beside him. He knew because he could see the faint outline of her shoulder in the emergency glow from the hallway behind them. The hand gripping his wrist could not belong to her. He yanked his arm free. Something cold brushed the back of his neck. He spun around. Nothing. The bedroom doorway was empty. Priya stood 3 feet away, both hands raised in front of her. Kabir. He stared at her. Don't come closer. She stopped. Okay. Your hands. She slowly turned them palm up. They were empty. Kabir looked down at his wrist. 4 dark fingerprints were already appearing around the skin. He felt an enormous wave of relief when he saw Priya's face, because terror, grief, confusion, and anger moved across it in recognizably human sequence. Whatever had touched him, it had not replaced her, yet the relief lasted less than a second. From downstairs came a sound like a child laughing. Priya's expression collapsed. My father, she whispered. What? He used to laugh like that. Kabir stared at the stairwell. You said he died when you were 12. He did. Then explain the auction. She shook her head. I can't. Try. I can't. Try. I don't remember everything. What do you remember? Priya closed her eyes. A room. What room? Basement. Kabir felt cold spread through him. Here? No. In India. Where? Assam. The word hung between them. Somewhere below. Something scraped across the floor. Kabir looked toward the basement stairs. You told me you grew up in Kolkata. I did. You told me your father was an engineer. He was. You told me he died in a car accident. He did. Then why are you talking about Assam? Priya opened her eyes. Because my father lied to me too. Kabir stared at her. She wiped her face. I was 12. He took me to Assam because my grandmother was sick. That's what he said. We stayed near Guwahati. I remember a temple. I remember a red door. I remember women singing somewhere behind a wall. I remember my father telling me never to touch a black stone. Kabir's mouth had gone dry. The idol. I don't know. You do. I don't. You do. I don't. Priya. I don't remember. She pressed both hands against her temples. I remember waking up in a room with ash on my forehead. I remember my father screaming at someone. I remember a woman telling him the debt had to be paid. Then I remember being on a train. What debt? I don't know. Who was the woman? I don't know. What happened to your father? The accident was 2 months later. Kabir stared at her. And you never told anyone? Who would I tell? Your mother. She was already dead. Relatives? We didn't have any nearby. Police? My father was dead. I was 12. Everyone called it an accident. The basement made another sound, a slow dragging noise. Something heavy moving over stone. Kabir took 1 step backward. We're getting out. Priya nodded. Yes. Not through the basement. No. Attic. They moved quickly. Kabir grabbed the emergency backpack from the closet. He had packed it during the first week of the storm season. Water thermal blankets, first aid supplies, headlamps, batteries, power banks, 2-way radios, protein bars, a flare, a compact pry bar, and a satellite messenger that he had purchased after the first camera anomaly. He activated it. No signal. He stepped toward the window. The snow outside was still falling, but the wind had weakened. He tried the latch. It opened. He lifted the window. It rose smoothly. Cold air rushed into the room. Kabir stared at the opening. That's new. Priya approached. Can we climb? Yes. He looked outside. The roofline was 12 feet below, dangerous but survivable. He secured the rope from the emergency pack around the radiator and tested the knot. Priya went first. Kabir watched until her boots touched the snow-covered ledge below. She looked up. Come on. He climbed through. The cold hit him like a slap. He lowered himself onto the roof and immediately felt something wet beneath his boot. He looked down. A footprint. Bare. Black. Fresh. It was on the roof. There were several more leading across the snow toward the chimney. Kabir's mind began generating explanations automatically. Animal tracks. Someone climbed onto the roof. Meltwater. Suit. But the prints were human. 5 toes. Heel. Arch. Perfectly formed. He crouched and touched one. The snow around it was warm. Steam rose faintly from the depression. Kabir? Priya called. He looked up. She was standing near the chimney. Don't go there. She froze. Why? The footprints. She looked down. Oh God. The chimney cap moved. Not much, just a fraction of an inch. Then again, something inside the chimney knocked against the metal. Kabir grabbed Priya's arm. Back. They retreated toward the edge of the roof. The chimney cap lifted. A blackened hand emerged. Priya screamed. Kabir pulled her away as the hand gripped the edge and a soot-covered figure began pulling itself upward. It moved with horrifying physical effort, elbows scraping brick, fingers bending awkwardly against the frozen metal. There was nothing supernatural about the movement. It had weight. It displaced snow. It breathed. That was what frightened Kabir most. It breathed. A human body climbed from the chimney. Its clothes were burned nearly away. Skin showed beneath the soot, blistered and cracked. Its face was turned away. Kabir grabbed the pry bar. "Stay behind me." The figure rose. Slowly, it stood upright. It was a man, not a shadow, not an illusion. A man whose body had apparently been burned and then preserved in cold. He turned his head. Kabir saw the face. He knew it. He had seen it in an old photograph in Priya's apartment before they married. Priya's father. She made a sound that was not quite a scream. "Papa." The burned man looked at her. His lips moved. No sound came out. Then he pointed at Kabir. The finger trembled. He pointed again. His mouth opened. A black tongue protruded. Kabir stepped backward. The man whispered one word. "Debt." Then his body collapsed into the snow. Priya rushed forward. Kabir caught her. "Don't touch him. That's my father. He died 27 years ago." "I know." "Then don't touch him." She stared down. The body had already begun sinking into the snow as if it were extraordinarily heavy. Kabir knelt without touching it. There was blood. Real blood. Dark against the white snow. He checked for a pulse from a distance he could not explain. Then the body made a small movement. Kabir jumped back. The man's fingers curled. His mouth opened again. She was not the offering. Priya stopped breathing. "What?" The corpse's eyes opened. They were completely black. "You were." Then the body collapsed inward with a sound like wet cloth being crushed in a fist. Within seconds, there was nothing left except a dark stain and a handful of gray ash. Kabir stared at the residue. "That's impossible," Priya whispered. "He said I wasn't the offering." "What does that mean?" She shook her head. "I don't know. You do. I don't." "Priya." She looked at him with such naked terror that he stopped. "I think," she said, "they intended to use me when I was 12. The wind rose. Snow blew over the roof. Kabir felt suddenly that they were standing inside a machine whose purpose had been hidden from them until now. "Who are they?" he asked. "I don't know." A chorus. Her eyes widened. "How do you know that word?" "Because you said Assam. Because you said ritual ash. Because the idol was supposedly connected to Kamakya. Agori doesn't mean black magic. I know. Most of what people say about Agoris is nonsense. I know. Then don't turn them into monsters because you're afraid." Kabir looked at her. "I'm not afraid of a religious tradition." He pointed toward the ash. "I'm afraid of whatever did that." They climbed back through the window. The bedroom was empty. The ash face had disappeared. The temperature was normal. Kabir shut and locked the window. He checked Priya for injuries. None. He then checked the entire room for hidden mechanisms, speakers, projectors, vents, anything capable of producing the phenomena they had witnessed. Nothing. His scientific instincts had not disappeared. They had become more desperate. He needed a model, a mechanism, a cause. He opened the laptop and pulled up every recording. "We need to understand the sequence," he said. "Why 3:15? Priya sat on the floor beside him. Maybe that's when it happened before. What happened? I don't know." Kabir searched the property records. The estate had been built in 1849. Before that, the land had belonged to a Dutch-American farming family. No documented deaths on the property beyond ordinary accidents. The house had changed owners 7 times. One family had vanished from the records in 1918 after the husband died and the wife moved west. Another owner had committed suicide in the library in 1974. Kabir opened the police report. A revolver, single gunshot. 3:15 a.m. He stared at the timestamp. No. Priya looked at him. "What?" "The suicide." He turned the laptop. 3:15. Her face changed. "That's not enough." "No." "Our fee." 15. Her face changed. "That's not enough." "No." He searched the other deaths. A servant had died in 1902. The time was unknown. A child had fallen from the third floor in 1887. 3:15 of 15 Amir. Kabir said back, "That's a coincidence." Priya stared at him. How many? 2. And the cameras? Still could be system interference. And the footprints? Could be physical intrusion. Your father? Kabir said nothing. And the idol? He looked toward the door. We need to inspect the base. No. We need evidence. Not tonight. If the idol is the source, we need to know what we're dealing with. You said we weren't touching it. Circumstances changed. Priya shook her head. No. Kabir realized she was right. They needed to survive first. Evidence could wait. They moved to the attic and barricaded themselves there, because it had 2 exits and a roof access hatch. Kabir established a surveillance system using battery-powered cameras. They turned off all unnecessary lights. They waited. Midnight came. Nothing. 1. Unturban. Nothing. 2. Turban. Nothing. 2. Turban. Nothing. At 2:45, the temperature dropped. At 2:458, the air smelled of camphor. At 3 every camera began producing static. At 3014:50, Kabir started the independent recorder. If we're seeing a neurological event, he whispered, we need objective data. Priya looked at him. What if it's not neurological? Then we'll document that. What if it knows we're recording? Then we'll document that too. 3:15 arrived. The attic door opened, slowly. Kabir and Priya stared. No one stood outside. The hallway beyond was empty. The recorder continued. Then the house began making a sound. Thousands of tiny impacts, mustard seeds hitting wood, one after another. Kabir stepped to the doorway. The staircase was covered in them. Hundreds, perhaps thousands. They had fallen from nowhere. Each seed rolled into place. Together they formed a pattern, a circle. Then another. Then another. Each circle connected to the next by a thin line of ash. It was a diagram stretching through the entire upper floor. Kabir crouched. This isn't random. No, it's geometry. Yes, a yantra. Priya whispered. Kabir looked at her. Do you recognize it? Not exactly. Then what? She took a photograph, a ritual diagram. For what? I don't know. You're an antique restorer, not a ritual specialist. You know enough to recognize one. I know enough to know I shouldn't step inside it. Kabir looked at the floor. We're not stepping inside. A sound came from the bedroom below, a bed creaking, then another, then another. It sounded as if invisible weight was moving from room to room. Kabir checked the thermal feed. 4 human-shaped cold zones were moving through the house. He watched them descend the stairs. They entered the bedroom, then the library, then the basement. They're following the pattern, he said. What does that mean? I don't know. The 5th figure appeared on thermal. It moved differently. It was warm, human body temperature. It climbed the stairs. Slowly, it reached the attic door. Kabir raised the pry bar. The handle turned. He prepared to strike. The door opened. A man stood outside. He was elderly, thin, and covered in snow. Kabir lowered the bar slightly. Who are you? The man looked at him. I was hoping you would ask that. How did you get here? The road is closed. You walked? From the river. Kabir stared. That's impossible. Not impossible. Not impossible. The man stepped inside. Priya whispered, Who are you? The stranger looked at her. You don't remember me. She shook her head. I remember your father. The man's expression hardened. Then you remember more than I expected. Kabir kept the pry bar raised. Name, Anirban Senator. Identification, the man slowly reached into his coat. Kabir told him not to move quickly. Anirban stopped. You're sensible. Identification. He produced an old leather wallet. New York driver's license. Name matched. Date of birth made him 73. Kabir photographed it. Why are you here? Because her house is not empty. We know. No. Anirban looked toward the stairs. You don't. The cold figures below had stopped moving. Kabir watched the thermal monitor. What are they? Remnants. Of what? People. Dead people? Some. And the others? Anirban looked at Priya. Some. And the others? Anirban looked at Priya. Not yet. Kabir felt his stomach tighten. Explain. Your wife was marked when she was 12. Priya stepped forward. Who marked me? Your father. Why? Because he believed he could bargain with something he did not understand. What? Anirban's eyes moved toward the basement. Not a god, not a demon, not in the way people use those words. Kabir interrupted. Then what? A pattern. Kabir frowned. That's not an answer. It is the only answer that matters. Explain it scientifically. Anirban gave a tired smile. You want science because you think science protects you. Science doesn't protect anyone. It explains. Good. Then explain this. He pointed at the thermal monitor. One of the cold figures had entered the attic. Kabir looked. The figure was standing beside them. He could not see it. The thermal camera displayed an empty, human-shaped absence. Anirban stared directly at the space. It's here. Priya began backing away. Kabir whispered, How can you see it? I can't. Then how do you know? Because it changed the air. Kabir watched the humidity sensor. The reading had dropped sharply. Temperature around the invisible figure was normal. But the air pressure had changed by a tiny, measurable amount. Something occupied space. He could not deny it. He could not explain it either. What does it want? He asked. Anirban answered without looking at him. Completion. Of what? The ritual your father interrupted. Priya whispered. What ritual? Vashikaran. Kabir looked sharply at him. That's a form of ritual magic associated with influence or control. Yes, not a literal mechanism. Your wife knows better. Priya's face had gone pale. I don't remember. You don't remember because your father made sure you wouldn't. Kabir turned toward her. What did he do? Anirban looked at him. He had your wife hypnotized. Kabir's professional instincts snapped into place. Hypnosis doesn't erase memories like that. Not hypnosis alone. Then what? Trauma. Sleep deprivation. Suggestion. Repetition. A 12-year-old mind can bury things very deeply. Kabir slowly nodded. That was plausible. Horribly plausible. So the ritual is psychological conditioning. Anirban's expression changed. Partly. Then we can break it. Can you? If we understand it. Your problem, Anirban said, is that you keep assuming understanding is the same as control. The invisible figure moved. The air pressure shifted. Anirban looked toward the attic window. It's time. For what? For her to remember. Priya suddenly screamed. She collapsed, clutching her head. Kabir dropped beside her. Priya. Her pupils were dilated. Her breathing accelerated. I can smell it, she gasped. What? Smoke. There is no smoke. I can hear them. Who? Children. Her fingers dug into the floorboards. They're singing. Kabir checked her pulse. 140. Priya, look at me. She did not. Priya, look at me. Her eyes suddenly focused. Red door, she whispered. What? Red door? Where? Where? Below the temple? Which temple? Kamakya. She began crying. There was a room beneath it. Anirban closed his eyes. I was afraid of that. Kabir looked at him. You knew? I suspected. What is beneath the temple? Old ritual chambers. Some are documented, some are not. And you think this idol came from there? Not exactly. Then where? Your father had it made. Kabir stared at him. Made? The original stone was old. The carving was altered. Why? To create a vessel. For what? Anirban looked at Priya. Memory. Kabir's brow tightened. That's impossible. Is it? A stone cannot store a person's memory. Not memory as information. Anirban pointed to the soot-covered absence beside them. Association. Kabir felt a chill move through him. Conditioned response. Yes. Fear. Yes. Suggestion. Yes. Suggestion. Yes. The ritual created an environment where the subject associated specific sensory cues with terror. Anirban nodded. Camphor, mustard, ash, heat, darkness, time. Kabir whispered, 3:15. Exactly. But the figures. People, 15. Exactly. But the figures. People, dead people. Some were people. Some are what remains after people are repeatedly remembered in the same place. Kabir almost laughed. He stopped himself. That makes no sense. You don't need it to make sense. Anirban looked directly at him. You need to survive it. The attic light went out. Darkness swallowed them. Something moved between Kabir and Priya. He reached for her and grabbed an arm. I've got you, Kabir, Priya whispered. That's not me. He released the arm. A hand closed around his throat. He was lifted from the floor. He kicked violently. The grip was real. Fingers pressed into his neck. He clawed at them. The thermal camera showed nothing around his body, but the pressure was measurable. Priya screamed. Anirban shouted something in Bengali. The grip tightened. Kabir's vision narrowed. Then Priya began reciting a sequence of numbers. 3, 1, 5, 3, 1, 5, 3, 1, 5, 3, 1, 5. Anirban slapped her across the face. Stop. She looked at him. What? Don't repeat it. Kabir fell to the floor, coughing. Why? Because repetition completes the pattern. Priya stared at him. What pattern? Your father taught you that sequence. I don't remember. You just did. Kabir looked at the thermal camera. The invisible figure had vanished. The pressure disappeared. We need to destroy the idol, he said. Anirban shook his head. No. Why? Because the idol isn't the source. Then what is? You. Kabir stared at him. What? You are now part of the pattern. What? You are now part of the pattern. Priya whispered. Because of me. Because of both of you. Anirban walked toward the attic window. Your father needed a living witness, someone to carry the ritual forward. When he failed, the mark remained dormant. Until the idol arrived. Yes. How did it find us? It didn't. Anirban turned. You brought it to the house. Priya shook her head. I didn't know. You didn't need to. Then why did I choose it at auction? Because you recognized it. I didn't. Not consciously. Kabir stared at the floor. He remembered something. 3 weeks before the auction, Priya had begun having dreams. She had dismissed them. She had said she kept dreaming about a black stone in a red room. Kabir had assumed it was because she was researching Indian devotional art. Now he remembered another detail. She had woken at 3:15 every night for 9 days before the auction. He had thought it was insomnia. She had never told him the time. He had seen it on her sleep tracker. The ritual was never attached to the house, he whispered. It was attached to her. Anirban nodded. The house became the stage. Then leaving won't stop it. No. Destroying the idol won't stop it. No. Destroying the idol won't stop it. No. What stops it? Anirban looked at Priya. Completion. Kabir's stomach dropped. Meaning? The marked person must perform what was interrupted. Priya whispered. What was I supposed to do? Anirban didn't answer. Kabir stepped between them. Don't tell her unless you know. I know. Then tell me. She was supposed to place the ash inside the idol. Kabir looked at the basement. The ash is already there, not all of it. What does that mean? There is ash hidden inside the base. Kabir remembered the technician's words. The sample. Yes. Then what happens when it's placed? The vessel opens. And what does that mean? Anirban's face became grim. The person who owns the memory becomes the person who carries the ritual. Priya? Yes. And if she refuses, someone else must take her place. Kabir understood. Me. Anirban said nothing. The attic floor creaked. Somewhere below, a door slammed. Then another. Then another. The house began locking itself room by room. Kabir checked the surveillance feeds. The doors were closing in sequence, moving toward them. Library, dining room, kitchen, hall, basement, stairwell, second floor, their bedroom. The pattern was contracting. It's hurting us, he said. Yes. Toward the basement. Yes. Toward the basement. Yes. Kabir looked at Priya. We go down. She stared at him. Why? Because if we stay here, it will come to us. Anirban nodded. And because the ritual chamber is below. Kabir looked at him. You know how to stop it. I know how to interrupt it. That's not enough. It's all I have. They descended. The house had become unnaturally quiet. Every step echoed. The mustard seeds covered the floor in patterns. Kabir avoided them. Priya followed exactly in his footsteps. Anirban walked behind them carrying an old cloth bag. At the bottom of the stairs, the basement was colder than the rest of the house. Their breath fogged. The idol sat in the center of the room. It had returned to its original size. 14 inches, the sealed container was gone. The stone itself was covered in fresh gray ash. Kabir approached with a camera. Don't touch it. I'm not. He photographed the base. There was a hairline crack. He enlarged the image. Something pale was visible inside. Bone? Priya whispered. Maybe. Anirban said, don't open it here. Kabir looked at him. Then where? Inside the circle. Kabir turned. You just said not to. I said don't touch the idol. Why enter the circle? Because that's where it expects you. And that's exactly why we shouldn't. Anirban smiled sadly. You finally understand. Kabir looked around. There was no exit. The basement door had vanished behind a wall of stone. Not physically vanished. The door was there, but the frame had become seamless stone. He touched it. Solid. This is impossible. Yes. No. Kabir hit the wall with the pry bar. Stone. Again. Sparks. There has to be a mechanism. Maybe. There is always a mechanism. Then find it. Kabir searched. Electrical boxes. Pipes. Foundation seams. Nothing. Kabir searched. Electrical boxes. Pipes. Foundation seams. Nothing. Priya stood near the circle. Kabir. He looked at her. What? There's writing. On the floor inside the ash circle were small marks. Not Sanskrit. Not Bengali. They were English letters. His own handwriting. Kabir crouched. The message read, I have already done this. He stared. I didn't write this? Priya looked at him. You did. No. Look at the handwriting. He did. No. Look at the handwriting. He did. It was his. The exact slant. The exact pressure. The exact habit of crossing the T in a surname. I have never been here before. Anirban said quietly, not consciously. Kabir turned. What does that mean? The house has been using your memories too. How? How? Through her. He looked at Priya. What does that mean? Your wife has been dreaming about you for weeks. Priya began shaking. I dreamed of him before I met him. Kabir stared. What? Not you exactly. A man in a white coat. A man who stood beside a black stone. Why didn't you tell me? Because I thought it was nothing. When? Before the auction. Kabir's stomach turned. How long? Months. Priya, I know. You knew something was wrong. I didn't know. You knew enough to tell me. I didn't know. You knew enough to tell me. I was afraid you'd think I was crazy. Kabir looked away. I would have. The honesty hurt both of them. Anirban moved closer to the idol. We don't have much time. What happens at 3:15? Kabir asked. It resets. What resets? The ritual. Then we have until 3:15. Anirban looked at the clock. 3007. 8 minutes. Kabir's mind accelerated. If the ritual depends on conditioned sensory cues, we disrupt the cues. How? Remove the smell, change the temperature, alter the sound, break the geometry. Do it. Kabir opened his emergency pack. He had activated a portable air purifier. He turned it on. Priya smashed several mustard seed patterns with her boot. Anirban kicked through the ash lines. The house responded immediately. The temperature rose. The smell of camphor became overpowering. The idol's eyes seemed to deepen. Kabir sprayed the floor with bottled water, destroying the ash pattern. The lines vanished. Again, he said. Priya scattered the seeds. Anirban tore through the remaining circles. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the basement door reappeared. Kabir almost laughed. It worked. Anirban shook his head. No. The clock read 3:11, 4 minutes. The lights flickered. The idol moved. Not much. A millimeter, then another. Kabir stared. Mechanical vibration. No. The foundation can shift. Kabir. I know. The foundation can shift. Kabir. I know. He stepped toward it. The idol moved again. It rotated slightly toward Priya. Its orientation, he said. The face is turning toward her. Don't let it. Kabir grabbed the idol with both hands. The stone was freezing. He nearly dropped it. The moment his fingers touched the surface, his mind filled with images. A red room. A 12-year-old girl. Priya. A man kneeling before the idol. Her father. An old woman holding a brass bowl. Black ash. Camphor flames. A child crying. His own voice speaking words he had never learned. Then another image. Himself standing in the basement of this house. Older. Exhausted. Holding the idol. Behind him, Priya was lying unconscious. Blood ran from her nose. He dropped the idol. The vision ended. What did you see? Priya asked. Kabir could barely speak. You. Where? Here. Doing what? I don't know. Anirban looked at him. You saw the future. No. Or a memory. It was impossible. Those are not mutually exclusive. Kabir stared at the idol. There was blood. Priya touched her nose. What? He looked at her. A thin line of blood had appeared beneath one nostril. Kabir went cold. Don't move. She wiped it. It's nothing. No. He checked her blood pressure. Elevated. Her pupils were unequal. We need to get you out. How? I don't know. The clock changed to 3:13, 2 minutes. The air became hot. The camphor smell vanished, replaced by the smell of wet earth and cremation smoke. Anirban opened his cloth bag. Inside was a small iron bowl, a bundle of dried herbs, a red thread, and an old photograph. He placed the photograph on the floor outside the circle. Kabir recognized Priya's father. Beside him stood Anirban, much younger. Behind them was the red door. You were there. Anirban nodded. I was. You helped him. Yes. You helped him. Yes. Why? Because I believed I could stop it. Did you? No. Priya stared at the photograph. Why didn't you come back? Anirban looked at her. Because I was afraid. You left me. Yes. You let me forget. Yes. You let me forget. Yes. Why? Because forgetting was the only thing keeping you alive. The clock read 3014. Anirban tied the red thread around Priya's wrist. When the clock changes, whatever you hear, don't answer. Kabir looked at him. What will she hear? Her father. The first sound came at 3:14:38, a car horn, then brakes, then metal crushing. Priya covered her ears. No. A man's voice came from the darkness. Priya covered her ears. No. A man's voice came from the darkness. Priya. She began crying. Papa. Kabir grabbed her shoulders. Don't answer. The voice came again. Priya, I'm sorry. Don't answer. I tried to protect you. Don't answer. I tried to protect you. Don't answer. I failed. Priya's breathing broke. Papa. Kabir slapped his hand over her mouth. No. The clock changed. 3:15. Every light in the basement turned on. The idol's tongue extended. The ash circle ignited without flame. Anirban shouted a phrase in Bengali. The air pressure dropped. Kabir's ears popped. The figures appeared. 4 soot-covered bodies stood around the circle. Then the 5th appeared behind Priya. Her father's burned face. He reached for her. Kabir pushed him away. His hand passed through the man's chest. The body staggered but did not disappear. She's not yours, Kabir shouted. The burned man looked at him. Then take her place. The basement floor cracked. A black line raced toward Kabir's feet. He stepped back. Another line appeared. The geometry rebuilt itself. Mustard seeds rose from the floor and fell into place. Kabir grabbed the pry bar and smashed them. More appeared. It doesn't matter, Anirban said. The pattern isn't on the floor. Kabir looked at him. Where is it? Anirban pointed to Priya. It's inside her. Priya collapsed. Kabir caught her. Her body convulsed once. Her eyes opened. They were not black. They were normal. She looked directly at Kabir. You need to listen. I'm listening. The idol isn't holding the ash. Kabir frowned. What? It's holding me. No. Kabir frowned. What? It's holding me. No. Kabir. No. When I was 12, my father put the ash inside the base, but he also put something else there. What? A piece of my hair. Kabir stared. A biological link. Anirban nodded slowly. Exactly. Kabir's scientific mind seized on it. Hair could contain DNA, not a soul, not memory. But a ritual could use biological material as symbolic identity. The association could be reinforced through trauma. The idol was a physical anchor for a psychological pattern. Then we separate the anchor, he said. How? Destroy the base. Anirban looked at the idol. That may release it, or end it, or transfer it. We don't have another option. He picked up the pry bar. The soot-covered figures moved closer. Kabir raised the bar. Priya, close your eyes. She did. He struck the idol. The first blow produced a sound like a bell. The second cracked the stone. The third shattered the base. Something inside fell onto the floor. It was not ash. It was a small bundle wrapped in ancient cloth. Kabir froze. Anirban whispered, "Don't touch it." The cloth moved. Priya screamed. Something inside crawled. Kabir grabbed the bundle with the pry bar and pushed it away. The cloth split. A lock of dark hair spilled out. Then a tiny bone, then something that looked like dried skin. The idol cracked from crown to base. The soot-covered figures screamed without sound. Every window in the house shattered simultaneously. Wind exploded through the basement. The lights died. Kabir fell. Priya screamed his name. He reached for her. His fingers found hers. I'm here. Don't let go. I won't. The darkness lasted perhaps 5 seconds. When the emergency lights returned, the figures were gone. Anirban was gone. The idol was broken. The cloth bundle was empty. Priya was unconscious. Kabir checked her pulse. Strong. He lifted her. The basement door was open. Snow blew through the entrance. The house had finally released them. He carried her upstairs. They reached the front door. It opened easily. Outside, headlights appeared through the snow. Police, ambulance, rescue vehicles. Kabir almost collapsed with relief. The deputies entered. They found the broken windows, damaged doors, shattered basement, and the two of them. They found no Anirban. Kabir described him. The deputy searched the property records. There was an Anirban Sen in the state database. He had died in 2011. His photograph matched the man Kabir had seen. Kabir refused to accept it. He asked whether someone could have impersonated him. The deputy said no. Priya was taken to the hospital. Kabir stayed beside her. For 3 days she slept. Doctors found no neurological injury. Her blood work was normal. Her brain scans showed nothing unusual. When she woke, she remembered almost everything. Not supernatural details, the basement, the idol, her father, the red door, the ritual, the memories she had buried. She told Kabir that her father had brought her to Assam when she was 12 because he believed an Agori practitioner could cure her mother's illness. Her mother was already dead. Her father had become obsessed with rituals promising control over grief and death. The practitioner had refused to harm the child. Her father had continued anyway, attempting a Bashikaran ritual that used ash, mustard, camphor, and biological material to bind the child's identity to a stone vessel. The ritual had been interrupted. Anirban had helped her escape. Her father died weeks later. Before his death, he had arranged for the idol to be removed from the site and hidden. Decades later, the artifact passed through collectors until it reached the auction. Priya, unknowingly conditioned by childhood associations, was drawn to it. Kabir asked her why she had bought it. She said she remembered touching the stone in a dream. She had believed the sensation was familiarity with the material. The doctors called her memories trauma-related. Kabir agreed. He wanted to believe that explanation. They left the hospital 2 weeks later. The estate was condemned temporarily because of structural damage. The police found no evidence of an intruder. The cameras contained corrupted files. The thermal recordings were dismissed as equipment malfunction. The broken idol was placed in evidence storage. Kabir returned to his laboratory and resumed work. Priya began therapy. She stopped restoring Indian ritual objects. They rented an apartment in Manhattan. For several months, life became ordinary. The dreams stopped. No mustard seeds, no camphor, no heat, no footsteps. Kabir slowly began sleeping through the night. He never told colleagues the full story. He described the experience as an extraordinary convergence of trauma, environmental factors, sleep disruption, and suggestion. He believed that, mostly. Then, on a Tuesday morning 6 months later, Priya called him from the apartment. Kabir, he heard something in her voice. What happened? There's something on the floor. What? Mustard seeds. He stopped walking. How many? 7. Where? Outside the bedroom. He closed his eyes. Don't touch them. I haven't. Leave the apartment. Kabir, leave now. There's something else. What? What? Ash. Where? Under the door. He felt the old cold return. Get outside. Where? Under the door. He felt the old cold return. Get outside. Kabir. Now. Silence. Priya. No answer. Priya. No answer. Priya. Then her voice came back very softly. Kabir, there's a woman in the bedroom. His blood turned cold. Can you see her? No. Then how do you know? She's standing behind me. Kabir started running. Don't turn around, I'm not. Get to the door. I can't. Why? She's holding my hand. Kabir stopped dead in the corridor. Your hand. Yes. Which hand? Left. Kabir remembered the basement. The invisible figure had held his right wrist. Priya had been marked on the left. Priya, he said, trying to keep his voice steady. Look at your hand. I am. What do you see? She began crying. A ring. Your wedding ring? Your wedding ring? No. What ring? My father's. Kabir reached the apartment building. He ran up the stairs. His phone vibrated. A security alert. Motion detected. Bedroom. Then another. Motion detected. Bedroom. Then another. Motion detected. Bedroom. Then another. Motion detected. Bedroom. He burst through the apartment door. Priya! She was standing in the bedroom doorway. Alone. The room was empty. The mustard seeds were gone. The ash was gone. Kabir grabbed her. Are you okay? She nodded. I think so. Where is the ring? She looked at her left hand. There was nothing. What ring? Kabir stared at her. You just said your father's ring. I don't remember saying that. He felt his stomach drop. Priya. She looked at him. What? What time is it? She checked the wall clock. 10:23. Kabir looked at his phone. 3:15. Every device in the apartment displayed 3:15. The room temperature rose. Camphor filled the air. Priya whispered, Kabir, don't answer anything. What? Don't say your father's name. She looked frightened. Why? He pointed toward the bedroom. Because the door is open. The bedroom door had been closed when he entered. Now it stood open. Beyond it was darkness. A faint gray ash line crossed the floor. Kabir stepped backward. We're leaving. Priya nodded. They reached the apartment door. The handle turned. The door opened. The hallway outside was empty. Kabir pulled Priya through. They ran toward the elevator. The doors opened immediately. Inside stood 4 people covered in soot. Kabir froze. Priya screamed. The elevator doors began closing. Kabir pulled her back. The doors shut. The elevator descended. They watched the floor indicator. 12, 11, 10, 9. Then 3:15 appeared on the display. Kabir hit the emergency stop. Nothing. The elevator continued descending below the lobby. 0.1223. There should have been no basement levels beyond 1. The elevator stopped. The doors opened. A red corridor waited outside. Priya began shaking. I've seen this. Kabir stared. Where? In my dreams. At the end of the corridor stood a red door. Beside it sat a black stone idol. Not Kali. Not quite. Its face was unfinished. Its surface was wet with fresh ash. Kabir understood then what Anirban had meant when he said the idol was not the source. It had never been about one object. It had been about transmission. The stone had carried a pattern from one mind to another, from father to daughter, from daughter to husband, from memory to architecture, from trauma to ritual, until the physical world itself seemed to participate. Kabir took Priya's hand. We don't go through the door. Why? Because that's what it wants. What if it's the only way out? Then we find another. He turned toward the elevator. The doors had closed. The button panel showed no controls. The corridor behind them had disappeared. Only the red door remained. Then a voice came from the other side. His mother's voice. Kabir. He shut his eyes. Don't listen. The voice continued. You always wanted an explanation. Priya squeezed his hand. Kabir, I know. It's your mother. I know. It's your mother. I know. She sounds exactly like her. I know. The voice became softer. You were afraid when you were a child. Kabir's eyes filled with tears. Yes. You wanted someone to tell you there was nothing behind you. He remembered the hospital room in Kolkata. Fever. Darkness, his mother beside him, her hand on his forehead, her voice telling him not to look behind him because the shadow would frighten him. The memory had been ordinary. The voice now made it sinister. But Kabir understood something. The thing could not create memories. It could only use what already existed. It could not invent his mother. It could only imitate her. That meant it was not omniscient. It needed information. It needed association. It needed a person to listen. He opened his eyes. "You're not my mother." Silence. Priya looked at him. "How do you know?" "Because she would never tell me to open the door." The red door moved. 1 inch. Kabir stepped backward. "We don't engage." The door opened wider. Behind it stood his father. Kabir's father had been dead for 19 years. He wore the same shirt he had been buried in. His face was calm. "Son," he said. Kabir's knees nearly failed. His father smiled. "Come home." Kabir felt tears running down his face. Priya held him. "Don't." He nodded. "I won't." The figure's smile disappeared. "Then she will." It pointed at Priya. Priya screamed. Kabir stepped in front of her. "No." The figure changed. Its face became Priya's, then his mother's, then Anirban's, then his own. Finally, it became blank. A smooth black surface, the same face as the soot-covered figure from the house. Kabir understood the final piece. The ritual did not require belief. It required attention, recognition, fear, memory. The act of turning toward it completed the circuit. So he did the only thing his scientific mind could conceive. He stopped giving it information. He closed his eyes. "Priya," he said, "do not describe what you see. Okay. Don't tell me where it is. Okay. Don't tell me where it is. Okay. Don't say its name. Okay. Don't respond to any voice. Okay." They stood in silence. The voice began cycling through people they had loved. Kabir's mother, Priya's father, friends, teachers, colleagues. None of them answered. The corridor became hotter, then colder, then hot again. The smell of camphor came and went. Mustard seeds struck the floor. They ignored them. The voices screamed. They ignored them. Something grabbed Kabir's shoulder. He did not move. Something grabbed Kabir's shoulder. He did not move. Something touched Priya's face. She did not react. The red door slammed. The floor shook. Then everything stopped. Kabir waited. 1 second. 5. 10. He opened his eyes. The corridor was gone. They were standing in the apartment hallway outside their door. The elevator was open, normal fluorescent lighting. A neighbor was walking a dog. Traffic sounded through the windows. The clock read 10:31. Priya looked at him. "Did we?" Kabir placed a finger over his lips. She stopped. They walked outside. They never returned to the apartment. The police found nothing unusual. The building manager reported no basement levels below 1. Security footage showed Kabir and Priya entering the elevator at 10:24 and exiting less than 1 minute later. There was no footage of the corridor. No red door. No red door. No soot-covered figures. No unexplained time gap. Kabir resigned from his position 6 months later. Priya moved into a small studio and continued therapy. They remained married, but something between them had changed. Not because they loved each other less, because they had learned that memory could become architecture, trauma could become ritual, fear could become a language. Kabir never again described himself as a strict rationalist. He still believed in evidence. He still believed in mechanisms. He still rejected claims that could not be tested. But he no longer assumed that something had to be supernatural to be terrifying. Sometimes the human mind was enough. Sometimes a stone was only a stone until someone taught a person to fear it. Sometimes a ritual was only a ritual until enough generations gave it blood, memory, attention, and repetition. And sometimes the most dangerous thing in an ancient curse was not the curse itself, but the fact that a human being could carry it without knowing. Years later, when Kabir and Priya had moved to a different state, they received a package with no return address. Inside was a photograph. It showed the Hudson Valley house during winter. The picture had been taken from the woods. In the upstairs bedroom window, 2 figures stood beside the bed, Kabir and Priya, exactly as they had looked the night of the storm. On the back of the photograph, someone had written a single sentence in Bengali: Ahum, bun, ahum, bun, ahum, bahun, ahun, a bun's bundaman, bahun, a fundaban, a bund, a bund, a bundabun, a bund, a bund, a bund, a fundaban, a bund, a bund, a bund, bun, a hund, butchkabun, a hum, but his bun, buckho, butanant, bukhun, butandat, butahand, but band. Priya stood beside him. Burn it, she said. He did. The photograph curled in the flame. The image blackened. The ink disappeared. The paper became ash. Kabir waited until nothing remained. Then he noticed something on the floor beneath the fireplace. 7 yellow seeds, arranged in a perfect circle. He did not touch them. Neither did Priya. They simply stood there, staring. Then Kabir's phone vibrated. No caller ID, no message, just one notification from the sleep monitoring application he had deleted years earlier. The screen displayed a single line: Sleep Exempel Disempeldecked. The PCT 315A. M. Kabir looked at Priya. She was already looking at him. Neither spoke. The phone vibrated again. A second notification appeared. Motion. DTU seated. Master bedroom. Kabir slowly turned toward the hallway. The bedroom door was closed. Beneath it, a thin line of gray ash began spreading across the floor. It stopped at his feet. Then, from the other side of the door, came 3 slow knocks. Not loud, not violent, almost polite. Kabir closed his eyes. Priya took his hand. Neither answered. 3 more knocks. Then silence. Kabir waited. 1 minute, 2, 5, nothing. He opened his eyes. The ash line was gone. The seeds were gone. The phone screen was normal. He almost laughed. Almost. Then Priya whispered, "Kabir." He looked at her. "What?" She pointed toward the bedroom, the door. "What about it? Look at the handle." The handle was turning, slowly, from the inside. And this time, before Kabir could stop her, Priya turned around, not toward the door, behind him. Her face changed instantly. Her eyes widened, her lips parted. Kabir grabbed her shoulders. "What did you see?" She did not answer. Priya, her gaze remained fixed on the empty hallway behind him. "What did you see?" Tears appeared in her eyes. She whispered, "Nothing." Kabir stared at her. "Then why are you crying?" She looked at him. "Because I finally remembered." "Remembered what?" Her hand rose slowly and pointed toward the darkness behind him. "My father wasn't the one who brought the idol to the auction." Kabir felt every hair on his body rise. "Who did?" Priya's voice became almost inaudible. "I did." Kabir shook his head. "You were 12. Not that time." "What do you mean?" She looked past him. Something seemed to move in the darkness, but he refused to turn. "The first time I was 12, she whispered. "The second time I was 36. Kabir's heart stopped. "Priya, I remember now." The bedroom door opened behind them. Cold air spilled into the room. The smell of camphor returned. Somewhere inside the darkness, a stone tongue scraped slowly across stone. Priya tightened her grip on his hand. "Kabir," she whispered, "whatever happens next, don't let me go." He nodded. Then the lights went out, and in the complete darkness, a voice directly behind him whispered in his own voice, Too late.